Also, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to use that. We'll address them as they come up or at the end. With that, we thank everyone for joining today, and I'll hand it over to Chad to begin.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to the webinar and for hearing our particular special brand of interesting craziness that we're going to talk over today. We're going to go through 9 best practices of B2B, business to business, voice of customer approaches. I'm just going to talk for the majority of the webinar until we get to the end, and then what we will do is address any questions that you have that come up throughout the webinar. So if you can just keep entering those into the QA portion of the Zoom webinar tool here, we will have those, collect those, and then go through some of those at the end. Plan is to spend about 45 minutes on the webinar, and then the remaining time we have going through questions at the very end. So from an overall perspective, we're going to cover 3 big things today. We're going to talk about quantitative research. Quantitative research being used in business to business voice of customer approaches, the lovely numbers on a page with colorful lines and lots of dots that we all love so very much. The good, the bad, how to use them efficiently and effectively within your voice of customer B2B research. And then we're going to talk about qualitative research, where we can bring disparate groups of people together that seem to have very little in common and find out that actually there's a lot that bonds these people, and find the commonalities between them so we can use that depth of understanding in our own businesses. Then we're going to talk about the mixture of these two, which we call a quali-quant approach. It's a whole brain approach of getting to a depth of understanding about our customers and future customers so we can do the best we possibly can to deliver the services and the products and the partnerships that they really want from us. Before we jump into all of that, let's just take a giant step back and say, what in the world does business to business voice of customer research look like? Why are we doing this? What's going on? At Proactive, we work with companies all over the world, and we do B2B voice of customer research all over the world. Some fundamental things that we hear when clients come to us and say, hey, we'd really like to go out and learn from our customers and future customers what they want, is immediately they think of other businesses that they want to sell to like this: a singular entity that's omniscient, omnipresent, always growing, this big, huge thing that's very difficult to understand and is going to take a lot of time and energy to really get into and get the depth of understanding that's needed to make something that's going to resonate with them. One of the things we do is take a step back from this and say the perspective is a little bit off. A business in a B2B context is really this. It's a combination of a bunch of different people that are working together supposedly for the same purposes and trying to push something forward. Each of the people that are in this business has their own likes and dislikes, and together, what we have to do if we're going to go and try to sell into them is get enough of these people to say, yes, I like what you're doing. Thumbs up. You got my vote, in order for us to be successful. It is not just appealing to a business, it is appealing to a whole group of individuals. And within that group, there's going to be stakeholders and there are going to be people holding purse strings that we need to make sure we hear from. But overall, we need to make sure that we hear from enough of the people inside of this business that we can get to this giant thumbs up. Someone who was great at doing this was this guy, Mr. Walt Disney. And he supposedly said at some point, success is easy. Figure out what people want and give it to them. He was very good at this, and I think we should probably follow suit. Voice of customer research is really nothing more than figuring out what people want and giving it to them. That's what we're trying to do. No matter which methodology we use, that's the end goal. To put it back into more business-friendly terms, what we're really trying to do is come up with these really solid ideas here. These ideas they come out of our depth of understanding of who our customers are, our future customers are, what they're looking for, what they want, where the gaps are in the marketplace today. We take those and start working on them internally within our own business. This is our marketing machine, our product development, innovation, pushing all of this forward to get to the end result of this lovely up and to the right bar chart, where we succeed because we sell to these other businesses and they succeed because they get what they really want. It's a win-win. We're all in this together. Kumbaya, let's hold hands. It's great. When it all works, that's how it's supposed to work. What can happen is we don't get solid enough understanding and information here. If we don't do that, as the colloquialism says today, garbage in, garbage out, right? We get to a place where we don't have the depth of understanding we need, which means we work on the wrong things, even though we're working very hard on them. We put them out and they don't work. We don't have these other businesses saying, yes, this is what I want. This is what I need. I'm going to buy it. We don't all succeed. So this beginning portion of the equation is extremely important. It is maybe 20% of the total resource allocation we're going to have on this whole process, but it has a huge impact on the success or lack thereof that we have at the end of all of this. So what we're focusing on today is this piece and understanding how do we get to this depth of understanding of our customers and future customers with this voice of customer approach. First, we're going to start with quantitative. Who doesn't love numbers on a page? If we're in business, we all do. It is something that is a very literal, concrete representation of the world that we can take back and say, hey, this is great. In business, it really functions as a Rosetta Stone. It doesn't matter what your first or second language is. It doesn't matter where you went to school. It doesn't matter what business you work in. At the end, if I put in front of you something that looks like this, even if it's in a language you do not read, do not speak, there are certain things that pop out on this immediately. First of all, you see a bunch of dots. So all of these dots mean we've collected a lot of information. That's great. This means we have some level of security with what we found. Then we see a very clear trend of all three lines going from the top left to the bottom right. Something is decreasing over time. We look at all of this and we say, ooh, I know exactly what this means right now, instantaneously. I don't even have to read what's on here to get that there is a very strong relationship going on. And we've got enough data in here that says, hey, this is a strong conclusion. What it does is it makes us from a business perspective feel like this. It's warm, it's cozy, things have been proven beyond some shadow of a doubt. We're in this really good space of going, ooh, yeah, love it, which gets us here with our people internally and with our customers and future customers. Quant data feels good. Quant data makes us believe that this is solid information because it feels like it's been proven. It's one of the fastest ways to get to this thumbs up across both our internal people and our customers and future customers. So when we operationalize this a bit and we dig down, we could have a table that comes out like this one, where we say, hey, everybody, take a look at all the 2 and 3 star values that we have here. These have a huge amount of statistical significance and showing that this is right on. We found stuff that's really important. This is great, right? And everybody sits around the table or sits around their laptops looking at all this, doing a head nod going, I love this. This is so good. Then what happens? We start getting these questions. Who are these people? When do they want this? Where do they want it? Why do they want it this way? What actually was behind all of this? How is it all being put together? Suddenly, we go from that feeling of being in front of the fire to being here. It's cold, it's lonely. And we start coming up with answers to questions like, well, it appears that our customers or future customers want this. It feels like, based on what we've heard from past research and now, that they're answering these questions this way. It is a very strong feeling of a vulnerability that we don't like, and it is taking us away from that warm fireplace where we really want to be. So what we do instead of waiting for someone to start to ask us all these questions, is we take them and we say, hey, well, let's just ask them to our customers and future customers. What is this? It's a survey. We all know surveys. Everybody's seen them. We know them. We sometimes are inundated with them. It is something we can use that takes what are abstract ideas in our customers and future customers and puts them down into a form, numbers that feel good, and that we can prove with statistical analyses that these aren't just chance ratings. These are things that we've actually found that we can take and use and move forward with using some level of confidence. It puts us right back here, right? In front of the fire, feeling warm again. Things are good. It's very popular for these reasons. Some very common ways of seeing surveys done is something like this: Net Promoter Score, NPS. It comes from Harvard. It's got great backing. You see it everywhere in B2C audiences, business to customer, where we've got the questions of how likely would you be to recommend our service or product to a friend or family member. In B2B audiences, this B2B context, we see it in the how likely would you be to recommend our product or service to one of your coworkers. We're looking for in this lovely survey the 9s or 10s. And these put us right back in front of the fireplace. We've got promoters, things are great. The 1 through 6s are when things are going bad and we're back out in that cold field again and we don't like it. Very popular way of using quant in a voice of customer approach today. Another one that we all know and love are the Likert scales: 1 through 3, 1 through 5, 1 through 7. The scales of saying how much do you agree, disagree, how important, unimportant is this. They are everywhere, and they're everywhere because they're good. They work. They give us a solid foundational understanding of what our customers and future customers feel and think about the questions that we're asking them. Then one that we kind of overlook a lot, but it's everywhere, is the smash that like button, right? How good was the quality of the huddle you just had on Slack? Thumbs up, thumbs down. How was the audio and video quality of your Teams call? Thumbs up, thumbs down. It's a very quick, real world voice of customer approach that's quantitative in nature, because we get numbers on a page at the end of this to say, here's how well we're doing overall. Now, I'm not sure if Albert Einstein came up with these 3 best practices for quant, but we're going to say that he did. Please don't go on Google and try to verify that, because it won't work out for me. But 3 best quant best practices for B2B voice or customer research that supposedly came from Albert Einstein. Very first one: answers from multiple perspectives yield the best information. When we go in and we do a quant study of our customers and future customers, we can ask them, and often do ask them, to get really down in the weeds with us and look at different aspects of our business or products at this very granular level. In this case, the lovely microscope, we could ask questions about, okay, what are the colors that you see through the microscope? What colors would you like to have on this lovely Rubik's Cube? We can get way, way, way down and very granular with what we learn. What we need to think about is asking about what our customers and future customers want from multiple perspectives. As an example, we could ask about the same Rubik's Cube, but have them zoom out. Same Rubik's Cube, just looked at from a different perspective. What do you see now? How has it changed? Getting both of these perspectives gives us the best level of information for us to be able to take and say, hey, we've got a solid understanding of what's going on here, that we can then say, this is a good light bulb for us to put through the rest of our process. One of the best ways to do this is to actually feel it for yourself. So this is going to take us to the first of 3 interactive exercises that we're going to do today. What's going to come up is a polling question for you. There's going to be 2 different questions. The very first question here, which I can move out of the way just a little bit so we can all see the question. Here's this question. The very first one: on a scale from 1 to 5, where 1 means you're a terrible driver and 5 means you're an excellent driver, how would you rate your driving ability? So on a scale from 1 to 5, how would you rate your driving ability? Go ahead, put in your answer. Give you another 30 seconds. Okay. Now, have a total. Oh, you guys are so good. Yes, generally speaking, from an overall perspective, we tend to rate ourselves, and we do this on large scale, 3, 4, or 5, which is great. Okay, let's go to the second question. All I'm going to do is change 2 words in this first question, but it's going to change your perspective. So here is the second question. Scale from 1 to 5, same thing. 1, you're terrible. 5, you're excellent. How would other drivers rate your driving ability? A couple more. So what the heck happened? We're asking about the same fundamental thing, which is your driving ability. But we're asking you to think about it from 2 different perspectives. And when you do that, you start to get nuances in your answers because they're coming from these different perspectives. When we think about this from a B2B voice of customer approach, the way to think about it is we've got these individuals within the company, these businesses, our customers or future customers, that we need to understand what they like, what they don't like, and get that level to make sure we get that perspective and factor that into what we're planning to work on. What we also have to do is get the perspective of enough people from within this business that we can say, hey, we've got a good representation of this from a variety of different perspectives. What we can also think about is this one person here that was our first person that we were talking to can think about what they want and what they need and can answer questions on that. They can also give us a read on what does the collective want here. What do they really want and need that we can ask them about and get information on? That same person could give us different perspectives, and we need to make sure we get enough of those perspectives so we get the best information possible and we've got the best light bulbs we can have. The second big piece from Mr. Albert Einstein here is you need to ask questions that are triangulated. An example, you go, you test drive a car, you love the car, it's great. You pull back up into the lot, and outside, standing out in front is a salesperson, and you get out of the car, you take the keys out, you walk up, you go to hand the keys to the salesperson, and in your brain, you're going, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. And then they say it. And what do they say? What's it going to take to get you in this car today? And you go, you said it. What happens when we hear this? We immediately do this. We armor up. And the reason we armor up is it's gone from a situation where this person who is selling to us may genuinely care about what we want, what we need, what is really working for us and not working for us, to just saying, hey, I'm concerned about me and making a sale. That's all I care about. You're a means to an end. So we put on our armor and we start acting like this is someone we can't trust. In a B2B context, we tend to do this a lot with questions like this one. What would make you buy our product, service, or partnership? We just cut right to the chase. And we're asking our customers and future customers to armor up. Another one, out of these 3 features, which one would make your company purchase and use the software? Maybe none of these 3 features have anything to do with their decision to purchase and use the software that you may be offering, but you haven't given them the opportunity to talk to you about it. You're cutting, again, right to the sale. Then one that's fairly common, we see a lot. The first question of this one, what's the biggest problem you have with our services? That's okay. That's a fair question to ask. What sticks out the most to you? That's a negative. That's fine. But then it's often followed up with, if we fix this, how much more would your company spend on our services? It's looking at this through the lens of, if we fix this problem, then everything's fixed for you, right? And that means you're going to buy more. So how much more? From our perspective, internally, it is good. We've figured out what the biggest problem is, and then we're getting some read on here's how much more they would spend. We can take that back and put that in. It's numbers, feels great. But from the side of the person that's actually taking this survey, we've made them armor up. And there are customers and future customers. It's not a pleasant experience. What we all want to feel is this: no matter where we are in an org chart, we want to feel like whoever's talking to us and asking us these questions cares about us, cares about what we want and what we need, and is taking the time to really invest in us so that they can take that back and work on it and give us what we really want at the end of the day. So the way to think about doing this, instead of just coming out and blatantly asking what we really want to know about, which is in the center of this lovely triangle here, what do we need to do to make them buy from us? It's a legitimate question. We really need to know this in order to make sure we give them what they want so they'll pay for it. Great. So instead of asking directly about that, let's ask around it. As an example, we could ask about the ideal features that someone could have in the software that we're selling. So we can give them a long list. Here's a huge list of ideal features. Which of these would be ideal features for you to have? Then we could ask, what features out of this list are most helpful to you today? Then the third part of our triangle, what are the least helpful features out of the list for you today? What we get as an output is we need to add more of this. We need to make sure we maintain these, and we need to de-emphasize these features. What we've learned is an answer to this question: what do we need to do to make them buy more from us? More of this, make sure you keep this. That's the answer to the question, without making them armor up and feel like all we're doing is just driving for a sale. The last best practice for quant, which is probably the hardest out of all three, is discipline. When we sit down and we're thinking about questions that we want to ask and what we need to know, what happens for us is time stops. We think of this from the perspective of there's a lot we need to know in order to get to a level where we feel secure that our little light bulbs here are right. What happens then is we start throwing everything in as a potential question. The problem with this is everybody that's actually going in and taking our survey, time for them is represented like this. They have as little, if not even less time than what you do. Their brain power is being used up, almost all of it, every day for them. So they have this much left in this lovely hourglass for us and to devote to the survey that we're giving them. In order to get the most out of the time that we have with them, we have to make sure we're not trying to learn everything. They don't have the ability, our customers and future customers, to give us everything. They don't have those resources. Instead, what we need to do is really focus in on what's most important. The information that if we learn this, it answers many other questions that we have. This is where we need to make sure we concentrate our resources, and this is what we need to ask questions around. A way to think about doing this is to start with these three questions. What do we already know? Eliminate that. We don't need to ask about it anymore. What information do we absolutely need to know for our next step? And this is step being singular. What is it we really absolutely have to know for what we need to do right now? That has to be a part of the quant that you're doing. Then the last one, what three things, if we learn them, will make this research a success? These are three big buckets of areas you want to explore in this quantitative research that you really need to know about. Great. You can write questions for those three buckets. Make sure that you're getting the information that you really need to know from question number 2, and use the time that you have with your customers and future customers to the best of their ability and your ability to get the information you really need to be able to move forward. So 3 best quantitative best practices here: uncover multiple perspectives, triangulate your questions, and be very disciplined in what you actually ask when you start asking the questions. Let's move on to qualitative research, the great meeting of the minds. Qual focuses on this fuzzy, creative, emotional side of who we are. And from a business perspective, it is not nearly as comfortable as what quant is. It is, however, so important because the majority of our behaviors are actually driven by this part of who we are. And that goes for all of our customers and future customers as well. Qual, in its simplest definition, is we are listening. Our job is to understand what our customers and future customers want. As the best moderator I've worked with said, you ask a question and you shut up. That's the goal. Qual is based on something we all know intimately and have a great amount of comfort with, and it's this. It's having someone that is walking with you, that cares about you, what you see, what you feel. It is a part of our lives that we rely on every day and really want to have reflected back to us as many experiences as we can get. This is qual, at its best. And is where we have these conversations where the person or people that we're talking to feel this level of care and warmth and can openly share with us. From a strictly research perspective, we can do qual from this perspective, a one-on-one interview, an IDI, where we've got someone asking questions and then our customer, future customers on the other side answering those questions for us. We can go up from there, dyads, triads, focus groups, and then we can get really crazy and go up to things like ethnographic supergroups, where we're going to go and walk with a group of our customers through their day or through a situation and have them explain to us what they're seeing and feeling. And we're right there with them, seeing and feeling it too. So we get a really good perspective coming out of it. Instead of having numbers, as an output, we get this. We get comments that we come back and look at and say, where are overlaps here in between people? What are we seeing as common themes that are coming out in the data? It is much more of an interpretive process than having a number on a page that says, here's your significance level. But within qual, the huge benefit of it is we get a depth of understanding that we can't get from quantitative research. So I'm sure at some point, Mr. or Dr. Sigmund Freud here said these things about qualitative research. Again, please do not try to go and verify this on Google. But we take this and say, what's the best qual practices for B2B voice of customer research? Very first one, let them lead. Again, we're looking for the best light bulbs we can possibly find and put into our process. In order to do that in a qualitative research approach, our goal is to go and learn what the map of the territory is. What this is really is what our customers and future customers see. And whatever we're asking them about, our category, our company, our product, whatever that is. The beauty of this is this map has already been drawn. It's inside of each of our customers or future customers. What they also have, which we desperately need, is the X marks the spot of the treasure. It's the areas where they say, hey, this is something I really want, I really need. They know that information. It's our job to go in and learn about that from them. In order to do it, we really have to take this approach where they are leading us into this unknown territory. It is oftentimes confusing. You will have people from the same companies taking you on different journeys through what you think is supposed to be the same landscape. And as you're going along, you will often have them say, hey, this is something that's really important to me. And at that point, you have to dive down with them, go in, find the treasure that's in the hidden shipwreck here, pull it out, talk to them about it, understand it so you can take it back and use it within your own innovation, within your own processes from a business perspective. How you do this is to really think about the questions that you're asking. If you take the perspective that your customer or future customers are leading, you can start to ask questions like these. What would your ideal look like? We're not trying to be prescriptive and give them a list. We're saying, hey, show me. What's the map look like? Where are the X's? Another one. What 2 or 3 things are most important to you? What's popping out to you in a good way about your experience about this product? Again, where are the X's? Please help me understand. Then a last one. What can a supplier do to best support you and your company? We're trying to go at this from the perspective of we don't know what's in your mind and your heart. Please share it with us. So what sticks out to you? What could a supplier do to best support you and your company? Let them lead. Next, best practice, seek to understand, not challenge. And this takes us to our second interactive exercise of the webinar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read you 2 transcripts. I'm going to go through them with you. After we get done with the second transcript, I'm going to ask you 2 questions that are, again, going to be these poll questions that will come up. Okay, the very first transcript here, let's talk about. Respondent, I'm unsatisfied. Moderator, why are you unsatisfied? Respondent, the client relations people never call us back. Moderator, they never call you back? Respondent, no, they do call us back. We're just unsatisfied with their service. Moderator, why are you unsatisfied with their service? Respondent, they're supposed to help us and they don't. Transcript number 1. Transcript number 2. Respondent, I'm unsatisfied. Moderator, what is leading you to feel unsatisfied? Respondent, well, when we call corporate to get help, it takes them a long time to call us back. Moderator, about how long does it take for them to call you back? Respondent, it can take anywhere from 3 days to a week. Moderator, okay. Can you help me understand what you're calling corporate about and roughly how quickly you need them to call you back? Respondent, we're calling because we've exhausted all of our options to solve our problem and are at a standstill. We really need to hear back within a day to help us troubleshoot and fix the problem. Okay, transcript number 2. Now, the first poll question. Imagine you were the respondent in both interviews. In which interview would you feel the most comfortable? Okay. Ask you the second question. Imagine you are the business paying for this research. Which interview has provided you with the most helpful information for your business? Now, from an overall perspective, answers are falling to the second interview being the most comfortable. And then if you're paying for this research, the answers in the second interview being the most helpful for your business. What's going on? Well, the first interview really puts you as the respondent in this situation. Doesn't matter where you come from. At some point in your childhood, you had an authority figure sitting with you going, why did you do that? Why would you think this is a good idea? That feeling is a very vulnerable, uncomfortable feeling that none of us have fond memories of thinking about. From an adult context, hopefully none of us ever have to do this, but it's this feeling. It's being on a witness stand, being cross-examined by an attorney whose job is to find holes in what we're telling them, to find the angles in what we're saying. Again, it's a vulnerable experience that we don't want to be in the middle of. If we look at that first transcript and go through it, one of the biggest reasons that it feels that it is really challenging is this question: why? After each thing that the respondent said, the moderator went through and asked, why do you feel unsatisfied? They never call you at all. Why would you say they don't call you? Like, you can go and just keep rolling with this, right? This question, why, is a question that's used so often in B2B voice of customer research, because we really want to understand why they're saying what they're saying or why they feel like they feel. The problem with it is as soon as we start saying why, we get away from this. We get away from that feeling of we're walking with you, where you really feel comfortable and supported. And instead, you've now gone into a situation where it's highly uncomfortable. You don't like it. Ways around this. For the second transcript, what the moderator went through, the first follow-up question was, what is leading you to feel unsatisfied? There's no challenge here. It's trying to understand what's leading you to feel this way. Walking with you, trying to see the world through your eyes. Second one that they asked to start off the question with, can you help me understand? Again, not challenging, just trying to go and understand what you really are wanting and feeling here in this situation, so we can take that back and make that into a good light bulb. And then the third thing that the moderator did is they said, about how long does it take for corporate to call you back, and roughly how quickly do you need them to call you back? What we got back from that respondent was a depth of understanding of not only how quickly they needed to call back, but what was behind that, why they needed someone to call them back within a day, because they were stuck. That's the beauty of being in a situation where you're not challenging, you're trying to understand. It makes it safe for the respondents to give us more information that is helpful to everything we're going to do next. Last one from good old Siggy over here is they don't care as much as you do. As Dr. Freud may have said coming in, we have many self-serving biases. One of the things that we do all the time is we look at our business, our category, our industry, and we look at it from all of these different angles. We are so zoomed in on it because it's our job to make sure we don't have blind spots and to go through and know what's happening. The issue comes in when we say, okay, we want to talk to our customers or future customers and really dig in and learn what they're seeing, what they're feeling. We come in using this as the filter for what we're going to ask about. Problem is, our customers come in with this perspective. They have a much bigger view of the category, our business, their business, everything that's going on in their lives, than just what's in this little circle of focus. What they can do is focus in where we ask them to, and they will, to try to be helpful. As soon as they do that, everything starts to take on this filter of this is my entire world of what's in this circle. So when we ask them what's important to you or not important to you, just focusing in on this circle, they'll give us an answer, but it doesn't help us to understand how important is this overall to them, because we've asked them to focus in so hard. This is called the focusing illusion. It's something that Dr. Daniel Kahneman and Dr. Amos Tversky found, and they both won the Nobel Prize in economics for finding this and other findings around behavioral economics. If you haven't read Dr. Daniel Kahneman's book, highly recommend it, Thinking Fast and Slow. He said the focusing illusion is defined this way: nothing in life is as important as you think it is when you're thinking about it. Okay. Let me give you an example. How does your shirt feel? Are there areas of it that are tight? Is the fabric really comfortable? Or do you feel itchy anywhere underneath your shirt? If you could have a different shirt, what kind of shirt would you have? On a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you in your shirt right now? You could give me answers to all of those questions when I ask them, but you weren't thinking about your shirt at all until I made you focus in on it. And now you're going to give me answers based on that extreme amount of focus. And I'm not allowing you to pull back out and give me an idea of how important is your shirt in your life overall. I can tell you, probably not that important. If it was, and it was bothering you that much, you would have changed your shirt already. Okay. So what do we need to think about when we're doing B2B voice of customer research with this focusing illusion? If we ask our customers to focus in this hard, our future customers and current customers, they will. And they will give us information based on this extreme amount of focus. What we need to do is ask questions that pulls them out of this extreme amount of focus, so we can get really solid information that takes into account enough of their perspective to make sure we know that this is valid, and we can put this in as a good light bulb for us in our process. In order to do that, we have to come up with questions that allow the customers to say, I don't know, I don't care, doesn't matter to me. And we can do this by asking questions like these. What feelings, if any, do you have about this? The phrase, if any, is important because they may not have any feelings. And we need to let them back out and say, I really don't have any feelings about this. Another one, is it a good thing, bad thing, or just a thing? It may just be just a thing. No one may care. They may not care at all. We need to know that. It's really important because we may put the wrong light bulb into our process if we don't give them this out. And then the last one, are any of these important to you or not? The phrase or not allows them to take that step back and get out of that extreme focus. So from an overall, the 3 best practices for qual: let them lead, seek to understand, not challenge, and they don't care as much as you do. Now, let's go to the combination of these two. What we specialize in is quality quant research. Again, goal here, figure out what people want and give it to them. That's what we're trying to do. People in this case are the people inside of these businesses that we are marketing to and trying to develop products and services for. We need to understand what they want so we can get enough of them to give the thumbs up that we get to the next steps and can sell, and we can all succeed together. In order to do that, we have to make sure we're identifying the correct and best light bulbs here. We get enough depth and breadth of understanding that we're confident in what we're putting into the beginning of our process. From a quality quant perspective, we are leveraging the quantitative, comfortable findings for business and bringing those in. So we have both our customers and future customers and our internal people happy and feeling good. We also are leveraging this more amorphous emotional side of who people are, but that drives their behavior, and making sure we collect information on that so we have this whole brain understanding of who our customers are, what they want, what our future customers want, who they are, and we can put those best light bulbs in as possible. So that's one side of this. That's our customers and future customers. The other side, which is often overlooked, is what do we have going on internally inside of our own company? This is one of my favorite memes ever, so I had to put it in here. It is, we've got some people internally that love quant. We've got some people internally that may love qual. We've got people that are in the middle of these two. But in the end, we have to satisfy both, because we also have to get a thumbs up internally from our own people in order for this to go anywhere and become an actual light bulb that we're going to use in our process. So using a quality quant approach gives us the best chance of getting everybody happy internally and getting a very well-rounded understanding of our customer and future customer. So if we combine the lovely Albert Einstein and Sigmund Freud here and say, okay, what are the best practices for a quality quant approach? The first one, in terms of methodology, is you need to use interviews and not questions on a page. Why? We want people to feel this way. We need them to have this feeling of, we care about you, we care about what you want. So they feel that we are going through and truly trying our best to understand so we can develop the best products and services possible for them. We need this part of who they are, this creative emotional side, in order to really have that depth of understanding that we're going to need to make the best light bulbs possible. The easiest and most effective way to do this is through interviews. So please use them. Second, we have to combine numbers and feelings together. It's a quality quant approach. This is an art, and it takes some trial and error to learn how to do. And an example of how to do this, so follow along. We can ask a quantitative question like this one. So 1 to 5 scale, completely dissatisfied to completely satisfied. How would you rate your level of satisfaction or dissatisfaction with the product that we'd be asking about in this research? Okay, numbers on a page, quantitative, great. Then we can follow up with a qualitative question. What, if anything, are the biggest highlights of your experience with this product? Have them show us where the red X's are on their map. What, if anything, are the biggest lowlights of your experience with this product? Show us where you don't want us to go. It's not working for you, or areas that need to be fixed. Then we can follow it up with this kind of whole brain quality quant question. Which, if any, of these highlights and lowlights contribute the most to the rating you gave above? What may be the answer to this question is it's actually none of these highlights or lowlights led to the rating that I gave above. Here's what led to the rating that I gave above. Fantastic. Now we've gotten quantitative information. We've gotten a depth of understanding through the qualitative information of what is good, what's not good in their experience. And we've collected even more information about what was going on behind their rating at the very beginning of this. We've got a lot of understanding of what's going on with our customer, future customer, and working for them and not working for them that we can take and use and make into wonderful light bulbs. The last one is getting to the place of sample size. We know what to do for quant, especially if we're trying to generalize it and make it big. We have thousands of people go through it. We know what to do with qual, which is, well, it's a smaller sample size. And we're trying to get depth here. So we're not going for as much. So what's the right sample size for quality quant approach? This is going to take us to our third interactive question of the day. And it's this one. What was the exact temperature of Goldilocks's preferred porridge? Look at you all knowing your nursery rhymes. This is so good. Okay. So from the overall perspective here, we've got the just right is what she wanted. When it comes to a sample size for a quality quant approach, you're looking for the same thing, the just right. And the just right is a combination of a few different considerations. First, it's going to be budget. What's your budget? Of course, you'd like to talk to every single customer and future customer out there, but that's prohibitively expensive and you don't have the time to do it. Okay, so what's your budget overall? Then what internally are you comfortable with in terms of total sample size, where you can get people to say, hey, this is something we believe in. It's something we don't have to generalize. Or we can generalize. It's not something that makes us feel uncomfortable from a quantitative approach. Then on the other side, on this more heart side, how long do we need these interviews to be? And tell you from experience here, there's less and less time that our customers and future customers have to devote to an interview with us. So we're really around the 20-25 minute mark for an interview. How much time do we have? How can we devote this? And make sure it works for us. And coming out of all of this, how much do we need to learn in this particular round of research for what we need to accomplish right now? So we can make sure that we're accomplishing what we need to with the right sample size. So from an overall perspective, we're looking for the just right sample size here. We do this with sample sizes from as little as 10 people to sample sizes that go up into the 100s of people, just depending on these factors and what's going to work best for our client. So 3 best practices here. Stick with interviews for quality quant. You need the numbers and feelings mixture that's going to work for you and work for the people that you're talking to. And then last, you need the just right sample size to make sure you get what you need. That is what I have prepared. If you have questions, in addition to what we've already gotten through the Q&A, could you please put them in there?
Thanks, Chad. We do have first question. It's how can we make sure that quantitative feedback is being activated upon, e.g. implement in the product development lifecycle, and how can we deal with stakeholders who doubt the results?
Was this quant or qual?
Quantitative.
Quantitative. Well, as from a stakeholder perspective, if you're going in and you're showing them the numbers on the page, they should have some resonance with that, because it is the Rosetta Stone, right? It's the language of businesses. What we've found and what we do is it's really the magic that comes from the combination of the two. So having the quant and having the qual, and putting them together in a comprehensive, easy to understand story. So here's the numbers that we're seeing. And then when we ask these questions to them, here's what they helped us to understand and fill in the gaps. That the power of the story that explains what you're getting in your results drives buy-in. So what you're really looking for is, what is the right combination of those two things, the quant and the qual, that's going to get whomever your stakeholders are to do the head nod and say, yeah, a very tactical way of doing this is you can go in and ask the same questions like we were talking about in this webinar from the qualitative perspective. What is it that, from the stakeholders, talking to them, what is it that you would really like to see that's going to help you to feel confident in what we find in this research? As an example, get to that level of understanding with them to help you in the process of planning out what you're going to do in the research. You've already checked that off, and now what we bring back is going to be something that they buy into.
Thanks, Chad. I think one last question, right close to the top of the hour, is when you look at quality quant, what do you think the biggest challenge is when it comes to B2B research?
It's different. And that's one of the biggest challenges with it. A lot of businesses want to go with a quantitative approach because it's what they have familiarity with, and it feels safe. When you start to bring in qualitative, especially if you just go all qualitative, for a lot of businesses that can be horribly uncomfortable because it's too nebulous and it feels like you're doing a lot of interpretation of the answers. From the quality quant perspective, it's really talking about it through the lens of, okay, we have quantitative backing that we're going to get quantitative data from what we're doing. What we need to think about then is the answers behind their answers. What is driving their answers? And that's where the qualitative is going to come in. It's going to help us to have this whole brain perspective of who our customers and future customers are, so that we make sure we're working on the right stuff internally and not having a situation where it's a garbage in, garbage out type of scenario, which is a nightmare for anybody.
Perfect. And I think, Chad, one more that just came through. And anyone else, if you have questions, definitely feel free to reach out to Chad directly or myself. Want to be mindful of time here. But the last one, which, Chad, is definitely one I know I ask you often when we are working with clients on projects, but when we look at a sample size, what would be a good or average best practice for sample size when looking at interviewing SMEs conducted on a semi-annual basis?
It's going to go back to those fundamental questions that we talked about in the webinar. What's your budget? How often do you want to talk to them? Do you want to talk to the same people or not? We can go through all of those factors, which then gets to a customized solution here. Typically, though, to hedge a little bit, typically when we're looking at this for the SME audiences, we can talk to anywhere from 10 to 50 of those people over time as a check-in to just see, okay, how is the market changing? How is their perspective changing? We can do that quarterly. We can do it biannually or yearly, whatever works. But in the end, instead of getting stuck on just the number, it's really about what is it that's going to make you comfortable, your internal stakeholders comfortable, to say we've heard from enough that this is good information, we can act on it. It's the same answer I give you all the time, Nando, and I know it drives you crazy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Chad, for walking us through that. I am sure everyone appreciated and enjoyed it. Everyone who joined, thank you very much for attending and listening to Chad for the past 60 minutes. We appreciate the time. If there are any follow-up questions that you would like answered or addressed directly, again, feel free to email Chad directly or myself, or connect with Proactive on LinkedIn. And if you have any feedback, also share it as well. So thank you very much, and everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.